Welcome everybody to week 3, to the most amazing course, Introduction to Engineering Design. Well, anybody has any question before we start? Hi, Rapping. Good morning, Fatma. Great, excellent. First we start. Is there anybody new that has not been here before? If there is, please manifest yourselves. No one is new. Good morning. Everybody's old, let's say. You were here last week. Nobody's new. Good. Fantastic. Now, today we will see a very interesting topic. But before we start, I want to make sure that what we learned in the last week has been more or less accomplished. So, does everybody get a sense of what engineering design is about? Can you give me a chat? What's engineering design? Anybody? Nothing. Oh, okay, then I'll put this question in the quiz. Second one is I ask for you to find some good videos about what is agile, and I see a few videos that are pretty interesting. Oh, and let me start my camera. Right, here you are. And so we will review these videos. I will give it to you as a homework. And did anybody watch any of the videos? Did anybody watch all the videos? No, no one. Right, very good. Excellent. Okay, good. Some of them, yes, but not all of them. Okay, good. Anybody else watch any of the videos? Yes. Maybe I don't ask you, maybe I'm gonna ask you here in Miro. So shall we all go to Miro board? Yes. And I'm gonna ask some questions there. Ready to Miro? Good. Can you see my screen? No? Hold on, share my screen. Share sound, share screen. Excellent. Right. So we Miro here. Come to frame number 1. Wait. We're in week 3. Good. This is the frame we're going to use. So if I ask you to write some post-it about what is agile, what would you say agile is for you? You can use the post-it sayers. Software development. Yeah, okay. Good. Principles. And Cesar, very good, but how many? How many principles? Absolutely 12 principles. I think there are principles and values. And Agile has principles and values. So 12 principles, maybe, and how many values? Hmm. Hmm. So good. Okay, let's see what you have here. Agile has 4 values. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. Very good. What else? And I heard in Agile there's something called roles and artifacts. Have you heard about that? Customer. Okay, okay, good, good. Okay, so let's play a small game. Okay, I'm gonna break you down in groups in three groups. All right, and I'm gonna give you 10 minutes, and you're gonna watch these Agile videos, and then your job as a group is to take a space here in the middle board and summarize in a small visual the main things about Agile after watching the video. And you can do this with post-its, arrows, or however you want. You can paste pictures here as well. Sounds good, right? The best team gets a bonus point. And so I'm going to make breakout rooms in Zoom. Are you ready? Yes. So I'm gonna give you 15 minutes. You can spend these 15 minutes watching the videos together as a team. And then you have to build this visual that explains the video on Middleboard. And I want to know, for example, yeah, so what is Agile? When was it invented? What are the main, how do I do Agile, right? What are the artifacts? What are the roles, basically? That's, there shouldn't be too many post-its there. Maybe like 10 post-its should be able to explain the whole thing, or arrows or stuff like that. Are you ready for this? Good. So in Zoom, there is an option to make breakout rooms. And so I'm gonna do it now. Name your board after your group number. Is there anybody that wants to be in a specific group? Right. So for example, Leon, no, nobody. So then I'll make automatic assignment. Okay, so you're assigned to rooms now. Do you see it on Zoom? Can you just go to your room? So Ahmed, Athari, Bryce, Fatma, Khalifa Lian, Mahra, Enerin, Salem, Salma, UAE to UAE to AE. Can you change your name to a normal name, please? You're in room number 1, and I want you to create your vision here. So choose one of the videos or 2 of the videos that are posted on Slack and try to understand what is Agile as soon as possible, as fast as possible. And then we start. Sounds good? Right, excellent. So you can start going to your rooms. And I'm opening the rooms now.
Professor, you're muted.
Thank you. If you press the space bar for a long time, you get muted. Somehow, I don't know why. Okay, good, everybody. Well, so how was it? Did you interact a lot with your group, or you didn't interact?
A little, not much.
Okay, good. So which board do you think is the best one? Good question. Who deserves the bonus points?
Group 2.
Group 2. Okay. Shall we start with group 2? So anybody in group 2 wants to explain what they did?
In group 2, we divided the videos.
Hold on. Before you speak, say your name, and then we can, yes.
Okay, I'm Taif. So in group 2, we divided the videos between us, and then we created a board on Miro where we shared our ideas.
Amazing. So anybody wants to go first? Well, I mean, your group, can you explain a bit what you understood?
Doctor, for the
Yes.
Agile, is simply about the ability to change direction so quickly.
Very good, but what's your name?
My name is Ali.
Ali.
So, yes, Ali Ahmed. So Agile is the ability to change direction so quickly and adapting the change of the market conditions.
Interesting. Okay. Very good. So Agile has 12 principles for values. That's very interesting, right? So we have these. What other information is important?
The definition I just said, the advantages, and what does it require, and what does it promote, and the methodologies.
Very good. And what else do we know about Agile?
All this information, Doctor, you can see.
I know, but you have to explain it to me.
Okay, so another thing about Agile is not working fast. Like being Agile doesn't mean that you finish fast, but being Agile, you take the low risks.
Interesting.
By changing the direction, you don't need to be fast, just you take the low risk chances.
Very good. And here I see you have flavors of Agile, yes? So you have Scrum, Extreme Programming, various things, yes? So yes. There's flavors of Agile, which are Scrum is one, Extreme Programming is another. FDD, what is FDD? Anybody knows that? Who did this? Post it here. Interesting. Okay, good. Right. So we'll come back to this later. In Agile, the team will go through phases, plan, implement, test, review. Yeah, that's very good. This one, I'm not so sure about this. So extreme programming is a flavor of Agile, okay? So Agile is the whole idea, and very good. Okay, anybody else wants to show their board? Iterative approach, 12 principles, invented in 2001. Okay, even after some of you were born. Good. Who did group one? Somebody from group one. Can you? Oh, maybe you can put your names in the board, yeah, so I know who's in which group, like somewhere, like group members. You know, like here you can put your names. Good. So group number one. Would you like to mention something that has not been mentioned? No? Okay. And group number three, would you like to say something? So I like this one. And I like this one. Mm-hmm. Very good. Okay, good. I think we got a very good overview, and so what's going to happen now in the following weeks, we're going to learn Agile and engineering design, but we're going to learn it by doing, not by me talking to you and telling you what it is. We're going to learn it by you work, and every day, every session, I will teach you some tool of Agile that you can incorporate in your work. Sounds good? And so the way we're going to do this is that I will let you build an app, design an app by yourselves. This could be, for example, I don't know, a wallet app, or a room, or a real estate app, or a food delivery app, or any of those things. So every session you will design a bit of the app, and we will practice Agile. And so you will learn by doing, which is the best way to learn this. Sounds good? Yes, okay. And we will use a flavor of Agile called Lean UX. So in every session you will learn something. So I will give you some new tool, like, hey, there is this Agile thing that you can use now in your project. So you can start step by step incorporating things to your workflow when you need it. So you really see the benefit of before and after. Does that sound good to you? I'm going to do the positive thing. Yes. Oh. Everybody got it?
Doctor, can you repeat, because I didn't hear somewhat of what you said, because what was lagging.
So what we're going to do now in the following weeks is that you will make groups, and you will work as an Agile group, and you will decide what do you want to build. You will build a fake app. You will decide to build something. You have to choose what to build. You have to build something, an app, for example. And every week, I will give you a new Agile tool that you can use in your development process. Does that sound good to you? Did you understood? Any questions? Great, excellent. Yes?
By fake app, do you mean like a concept?
Yes, not a concept. So you will do a concept, and then you will make a mock-up, what we call a mock-up.
I see.
Like, you will not code it. I mean, you can code it if you want, but you will use Figma to create the app. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, if you understood what I said, come to the post-it and place your mouse wherever you think you should place it. You got it? Okay, so important thing we need to do is to make groups. So we are 30, we are a lot of people in this class this year. Last year we were 12, but now we are 3 times more. And this is a problem. We can only have five groups. Otherwise, it becomes very complicated to review all the groups' job. And so I understand that we don't know each other at all. So how are we going to create groups? So do you want me to assign the groups automatically? Or would you like to be able to choose your group mates? Say yes. If you want to choose your group mates, or go to no if you like me to assign you automatically. No, no one. Okay, good. So I will assign you automatically, and this means that you will have to choose a some topic. Like for example, as I said, food delivery app or a grocery delivery app or some app for any idea that you like. So the best thing to get a good idea is to look around you and see what problems there are. It can be an app, but it can also be a smartwatch app, for example, right? Or it can be a website, for example, yes? It doesn't need to be an app. It could be also something else, a chatbot, for example, or it could be anything. It doesn't need to be an app. Sounds good? Good. So before we proceed, so I'm going to show you another set of slides that you might like. It's called okay. Perfect. I'm opening a slideshow presentation. Yeah, excellent. That's it. Right. So you saw that there are various flavors of Agile. One of them is called Scrum, another is called Extreme Programming, another is called PDCA, or PDCA is a flavor of, or Agile is a flavor of PDCA, or it shares lots of things. You saw as well from the videos that Agile has planned to do these phases, right, and so on. So today I'm going to show you one of the most successful flavors of Agile. And let me share you the screen. Okay, can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. So this flavor of Agile is called Lean UX. And it's one of my favorites. It's the one I use the most, right? Okay, excellent. So let's see. You see the screen? Okay, so this is a Lean UX workshop. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start. I have taught this workshop many times in many places, in Barcelona, in California, in Dubai. Here you can see a book called Design Sprint. So Google has its own flavor of Agile, and they call it design sprints, and so on. So what you will learn here today is what is Lean UX, the difference between a prototype and an MVP, and types of prototypes. So let's go to it. And so there is this thing in Agile and in software development that this is called the iron triangle. Anybody knows what is the iron triangle? Have you heard about this before? So the iron triangle means that when you have a software project, you can have any two you like, but you cannot have the three of them at the same time. And this means that you can have, for example, let me paint on the screen. You can have a project delivered fast and with good quality, but it will cost you a lot of money, right? Or you can have a very cheap project with a good quality, but then it will take a lot of time. Or you can have a very fast project and that costs a lot of money, but if it's fast and it's expensive, but the quality will not be possible because it's fast. So this is called the iron triangle. And in Lean UX, what we say is that we want to minimize the time, not the money. Okay, so we want to minimize time because in software, the most expensive cost you have is the humans working there. And the humans, you pay them by the hour. So we said, in UX, we're going to minimize time because at the end of the day, time is money, and time is the most important thing in software development. Right. And so we saw a bit about design thinking, right? And so if you remember this chart, can somebody tell me what does the X mean here? No? So there's this thing that comes from design thinking that says that if you want good quality, or also in Agile, right? If you want good quality, what you have to do is to do lots of prototypes, correct? Or in Agile, we say that we want to maximize the number of iterations, right? The more iterations, cycles we go, the more quality we will have. And so in Lean UX, what we want to do is to minimize the time by making these cycles, this planning, then doing these cycles as fast as possible, right? So there is this other figure here that is very important that you know. It's called the experiment loop. And this comes from the book, The Lean Startup, and it's by Eric Ries. I don't know if you see it here. Eric Ries, super famous guy. And so what he says is that when you do a startup or when you build an app, you really, or the team or the company really don't know what they're doing, basically. You might have an idea, right? And then you build a first prototype about this idea, right? And then you want this prototype, you package it as a product and you show it to real people as a product, and then you measure what these people feel about the product, right? This gives you data, and with this data, you learn something about this idea that you had. Yes. For example, let's say I have a great idea to make an app about ice cream delivery, right? An app that when I push a button, an ice cream will appear in my food footstep. Maybe I think this is a great idea, but according to Eric Ries, you should not use waterfall to implement this. You should use agile, or in Lean UX, what we say is the experiment loop. And this means that you have the idea, you build a prototype as fast as possible and not very expensive. You convert it into a product. That means that you show it to a real person, like, hey, do you want to try this app that delivers an ice cream when you push a button? Try it. You let a real person try it, and then you measure what happens, and maybe you realize that in UAE, the ice cream melts very fast. So you will not have a real ice cream, you'll have a melted thing. So you learn something that people don't like melted ice creams. And you learn something, and then you can, you learn something, and then you can go to the next cycle. And the faster you do this cycle, the faster you improve the product. Whereas if we were using waterfall and we spent 6 months programming this app, and then after the end of the 6 months, we realized that, oh, ice creams melt in UAE very fast. This is not gonna work. Then, yeah, so that's the idea. So this loop, measure, learn. The faster you do it, the faster you do it, the better. And this Eric is. So there's another important thing you should know is the difference between prototype and MVP. Has anybody heard about this word called MVP? Does anybody can guess? Can anybody guess what it means? Anybody? No? No, nothing. Taif, what do you think it means? Most valuable player. No. There are things most known as small. No. Not in this class. What does MVP mean? So MVP means, can you see the screen? Can you see the PowerPoint? Yes. Okay. So MVP means minimum viable product. Minimum viable product. And this means that you want, when you do this cycle, you don't want to spend a lot of time building something that looks like a product to show it to the customer to get feedback. You want to do this as fast and quickly as possible, and that means minimum. Okay. There's this saying that it says that if you're not embarrassed by your MVP, then it means you spend too much time doing it. Okay. Right. So the difference between a prototype and MVP is that the prototype, the difference is the goal. So the prototype goal, the reason you do, the why you do a prototype is to test the product design or the technical hypothesis. This means that in the case of the ice cream, it would be like, will it melt or will it arrive frozen to the destination, right? So it's a technical hypothesis. Will the car work in real conditions or not? So you build a prototype, you check it, does it work or not? Does it break down or not? The MVP goal is different. The MVP goal, and this is important for you guys, is to test a business hypothesis. And business hypothesis is, will somebody give me $5 for delivering an ice cream through an app? It's different things, right? So you as engineers, you're very focused on testing the technical hypothesis, but if you want to be successful, you need to look as well as the business side of it, not just the technical side. Make sense? There's another way to explain this, and is that when you're building a Let's see if I can. Yeah. So a typical mistake of when building a prototype is to try to make it too perfect and too complete. Like when you build an app, don't try to build the whole app. Maybe you just need to build a small part of the app to test if the users would like it, right? So when you build a prototype or a mock-up or something, don't try to build everything, or on the other hand, don't do just one layer. What you want to do is a layer that goes across the whole journey of the user. So the user, for imagine if it's an app like UAE app, no, it has many features, but maybe you don't want to implement all the features to test. Maybe you can implement one part of this journey that the user goes through the app. For example, the login, and then the user checks the grades and then logs out, right? So you could implement that, and then you can implement a slice of the experience, right? Instead of implementing the grade system of the app completely, but then you cannot test the whole journey. Does it make sense? So that's a very good. Okay. So here's another question for you. If imagine you work for Toyota and we ask you to build a car, right? So there's two ways to build a car or prototype a car, this or this, right? So which one would you choose, A or B? A. So anybody choose B? Asma, would you explain to us why you chose B? Excellent, Asma. Taif, very good. Taif, bonus point. Good. So B is usable, Taif, when you open the microphone and explain to us. Checking the time.
If we went with A, I think it will be a waste of money. Like, what will you do with players alone? But if you go with B, you can use this and experiment it in each stage and develop and see what the user needs. For example, in the first one, they might not be fully balanced, so they might need something to hold their hands. And maybe in the second step, they are tired from standing, so you provide them with a chair. And maybe they are tired from, just cycling themselves, so provide them with a machine, and so on.
Yeah, this is excellent, Taif, very good. But B is for building a vehicle, not a car. Yes, exactly. And this is the problem with engineers. They focus a lot on the thing and not on the user. So why do people buy cars? Because they like cars or because they need to go from A to B, right? And so in A, if maybe in A, yes, Khaled, some people buy cars because they like cars. But here's the thing. In A, you build a wheel. How do you know if people would pay you? You cannot really get feedback from the market, right? Like, hey, test this wheel. No, but in B, you build this skate and then you can give it to the users and they can try it and they can give you feedback. And they can say, yeah, oh, I like that I can go 3 times faster from home to the market. Yeah. And then you can ask, and what would you, yeah, it was a bit difficult to steer. Okay, and then you can build number 2, and you can build number 3, and number 4, and number 5 with feedback. But in A, only until you are in 4, you can ask the user, you can get real feedback from the market. This means that you work blindly for a long time, and this is super dangerous. Whereas here you work with feedback more often, and so on. Sounds good? There's another thing here, the same way to explain the thing is, so this is time on the x-axis, and the y is work. And so the risk that you have because you don't have feedback is very high, whereas here, because you get feedback more often, you minimize the risk. And what is risk? Risk is working without having feedback. If you're lucky, you are building what the customer wants. But if you're not lucky, you might be building something completely wrong just because you don't have feedback. Yeah, so it's like working blind. Sounds good? I feel A is more like waterfall model type. Yes, this is an illustration of waterfall. So waterfall is good, like you are really sure, you're completely sure that they will want this car, this color, and these specs. Fine, go ahead, do it. And this is how we build many things, like bridges and stuff like that, that we know the design will not change. But in the world of software, in the world of apps, things are very complex. It's very hard to predict what the customer wants. Look at how many times people have tried to invent successful apps like Instagram or Facebook. I mean, do you know how many times people tried to invent Instagram before Instagram? Thousands of times, and they failed until somebody invented not only bugs, but it's so complex that all the components that until you don't show it to the user and they test it, you don't know what's going to happen. As you build it, you learn, right? It's very interesting. So another one is, what very interesting thing to know is the types of prototypes that we have. So there's 4 types of prototypes. There's a thing called paper prototypes. And so this means that you are in a meeting, for example, discussing how to do this ice cream app, for example. So how do you brainstorm this? So the best way is to take a pencil and a paper and have a coffee, and you sketch like the layout of the app. No, so paper prototypes are fantastic. Wait, in this case, you would use maybe Miro or any other tool. Yeah. So these kind of prototypes are good for, high level abstract discussion, very preliminary team discussions. Yeah, correct type. Very good. It's called also low fidelity prototypes. And so, yes. Then you have, after paper, you have low fidelity prototypes, and there's a very good software called Balsamiq. Do you see it here? So Balsamiq is amazing. Or Axure also is very good. And so this is an example of a low fidelity prototype. So this represents an image. And so it's very good because it's very fast, and you can really print everything and put it on the wall and see how the app would look like, for example, right? These kind of prototypes are better for deciding the content and deciding the layout, right? And the good thing about this is that you don't consider the colors or the aesthetics. And so you're not distracted by that, which can be very, very distracting, right? So just focus on the layouts and the flows. This low fidelity prototype. Then you have high fidelity prototypes. And so you have a few software companies that enable this. So one of them is Adobe Photoshop, Just in Mind, which is a company of my friend, Sketch, right, which is the Photoshop of mobile apps, InVision, which is very good collaboration owned by Adobe as well, and Marvel App that we used to use a lot, and of course Figma, very good Figma. So this is before 2019. But now, because we're super advanced in this class, we use Figma. And as I told you, if you know Figma, you will have a job. So yesterday I was in a big meeting and they didn't know Figma. And this was a red flag. So these high fidelity prototypes are best for deciding everything, right? So, and the good thing is this one, you can use it for research. What does that mean? So that means that because it looks real, you can show it on the phone and you can give it to someone and you can observe what they do with the app. So remember the experiment loop? So that's okay, right? So here you have an example of functional prototype. Do you know this one? What is that? So this is the Google car, Waymo. It's an electric car. So this is a functional prototype. It works, it functions, right? So this functional prototype, as we said, the point is to test if the thing would work, if the technology would work, right? To do a functional prototype, what you want to do is something that works. So code that works, right? So here's some tools you can use. App Inventor, I think you know this one, right? Android Studio you use. Origami framework. You can even use HTML and CSS to code. And Twitter Bootstrap is a CSS framework as well. If you make a website, for example, you can use this one. I think this is for apps, App Inventor. Anybody used App Inventor? Right. So these functional prototypes, which is a step forward, same thing, and it's beyond high fidelity. It's a prototype, right? So it works. You can test the tech. Good. So you should know this. There is this law that the higher the fidelity of the prototype, the more accurate or more real the feedback that you get from the users will be. Does that make sense to you? Yes. Good. So key takeaways. So different types of prototypes. So you should consider where you are in the project and when to use each one, right? So use your common sense. Prototypes are meant for iterations, right? So at each step of the iteration, you might want to use a different tool. You can use them to test technical hypotheses. This means, can I use Python with this CSS combined with this backend and Node.js, yes or no, right? Or is it possible to deliver ice creams without melting in Dubai, or what is it? Examples, now let's see examples of MVPs. So does anybody know this one? No? Do you know Facebook, maybe? So this was the first Facebook page. Yes, 2004. Oh my God, 2004. What is this? Has anybody seen the movie The Social Network? Yes, it used to be called the Facebook. Yeah. Okay. So what is this? Is this an MVP? Is this a prototype? What is this? This is an MVP. Okay. It was also a working prototype, and it was also an MVP. So it can be both. And if you watch the movie, so he built this very quickly, not complicated, and show it to some people and see if they registered or not. So the purpose of this MVP was very, very clear, no? Do something, see if they like it or not, as quickly and cheaply as possible. And the result was very successful. We all know the results. Exactly like that. Do you know Groupon? Anybody here? I don't think it's popular in this region. Okay. Do you know Dropbox? Yes. So imagine that you are the CEO of Dropbox. Drew Houston is his name, and that you have to do an MVP. So what is the cheapest, fastest way you would have to test if people are interested in Dropbox? What would you do as an MVP? Hamda, what do you mean? A host or a backup manager? Okay. Mm-hmm. Right, as a software, you mean? Mm-hmm. But how do you see that? Like, you cannot ask them that is not an MVP, right? You have to show something. What do you think they did as an MVP? Remember, what is the purpose of the MVP? The purpose is to test if people would pay you money for the product, if people would buy the product, if people want the product, right? So what they did was very smart. They didn't spend 6 months coding Dropbox. Interesting, Maitha. What do you mean? Open the microphone.
Hello?
Yes.
So I mean, like, rather than using cloud, they can, like, for example, someone wants to share a video, so he would ask people to subscribe to an email, like spam email or something, to send it to all of the subscribed users at once.
Interesting. Okay. So you are the Dropbox guy. You have not built any app yet, and you want to know if people would buy money or would pay you money for this app, Dropbox. Yeah.
Yes.
So what is the cheapest way you have to find out if it's a good idea? What would be a good prototype or MVP? Yes.
I mean, email is already developed, so he doesn't need to develop a new.
Oh, you
way.
say okay that you can use email to send the files. You mean?
Yeah.
Yes, but Dropbox is not about that. Dropbox is that it automatically backs up anything that's in a folder, right?
Yes, but since it's an MVP, like the developer,
okay.
maybe he wants to test if users are interested in this idea.
Absolutely. Okay. Any other way to test this? So what they did at Dropbox is that they make a fake video of how the software would look like if it worked. So they paid someone to do a fake Photoshop video of a user pretending to use Dropbox as if it worked. Yeah. And then they published this video on a hacker list called HackerNoon. And then they said, hey, we made this software, it's in beta. If you want to test this beta version, send us an email, put your email here. And then, I don't know, they got like 4,000 emails. Was this a good MVP? Yes. Why was this a good MVP? Hamdan, they fake it. You can say that, but in this class we will say they created a mock-up, okay? And this was very wise of them to do this, because the other option, to spend $3 million to develop a software without knowing if the market wants this software, that is the real stupid thing to do. And that's what we don't want to do. And that's what so many people have done in the past. They have an idea, they think it's great, they don't ask anybody, they do it, and then they realize they were not right. Correct? Yes, an example is VR glasses. Very good. Okay, so how do you like this MVP? Very good MVP. Why was it good? Because it was cost effective, fast, and what else? Cost effective, fast, and what is the purpose of the MVP? No, it was high quality. Maybe it looked high quality, but that's not the deal, right? What is the purpose of the MVP? Why do you do it? No, not profit. You want to get feedback. Very good, Nathan. Feedback. And asking people, would you buy this product? That's not feedback, okay? Because people don't know what they want. But when somebody types their own email in a box, that takes effort. That's not like, yeah, I love it. When it's ready, I will buy it. No, when somebody types the email, that's real feedback, right? 4,000 emails they got. After they got this, they knew they were into something. And then they had confidence to spend $3-4 million to develop the real product. Sounds good? Excellent. So this is the kind of MVPs you want to do. You want to do it as cheap and as quick as possible, but that they will give you real feedback. And real feedback is responses from users, that the user clicks on a button to try to buy it. Maybe it's not available to buy it. It doesn't matter. You count the number of clicks. Another way, another interesting prototype. Do you know this one? Okay, good. Okay, we're out of time, so we will continue in the next class. Sounds good? So for the next class, let me know if you know this Pebble watch and what is the MVP here. Sounds good? And I'll see you next class. Let's see the attendance. How many people are we? Everybody's here. I think everybody's here. Okay, good. So I'll see you next class. You can leave now. On GoFundMe. Okay, share the link on Slack, Hamdan, if you find it. Yeah, super awesome. See you on Wednesday. See you on Wednesday. Ciao, ciao. Ciao.